hospitals. For most of you, they're just places to seek healing, right? But what if behind these walls, there are events so real they take your breath away? Events like nightmares. Tonight, you'll hear 3 unbelievable stories that turned Dr. Robert Geller's life upside down. The shadow that left him breathless in the dark parking lot. The terrifying conspiracy threatening his career in the chief physician's office. And the spine-chilling lullabies echoing in the baby care room. How could a doctor, a human being, keep their sanity amidst all this? If you were in his shoes, would you believe the reality of these events? Remember, this is not just a story. Every moment Dr. Geller experienced pushed the boundaries of reality and defied logic, feeling the shadow's breath on the back of his neck, falling victim to a conspiracy in the hospital, the one place he could trust, and witnessing even the most innocent sounds turning into a nightmare. You will feel this tension to the core of your being alongside him. Hold your breath, because Dr. Geller's nightmares are just beginning. Story 1. The shadow in the hospital parking lot. Hospital corridors are generally quiet places where pain echoes. This is true for most people, but in this hospital, you now know that this is not the only reality. While everyone else is asleep, you are now witnessing what happens when the moonlight shines through the window. For me, for Dr. Robert Geller, these shadows and lost souls had become a part of my life. With every step, every breath, I felt the weight on me deeply. And once again, someone was waiting for the moment I would be alone. That night, this pursuit would reveal itself in the hospital's most unexpected place, the cold, dark corridors of the parking lot. Once again, I was alone with my own silence. It was around 8:43 in the evening. My wife had come to visit me early that morning. I introduced her to the other doctors and nurses I worked with. Then I listened to the hospital janitor talk about a few health issues he was having. After the janitor finished his questions, I began to move slowly toward my room on the upper floor. I was hoping I could sneak away for a bit and get some sleep. But there was a small problem. My neck pillow was left in my car in the parking lot. I'd reminded myself to bring it when I came in the morning, but because my friend Dr. Max called me from the emergency room while I was still in the parking lot, I had forgotten the pillow in the car. I started walking toward the parking lot. Some fresh air and a few puffs of cigarette could completely revive me. So I had to quickly return to the room and take a short break. When I entered the parking lot in the basement of the hospital, I couldn't see anyone there. David, the security guard working in the parking lot, was probably taking advantage of the fact that no one was there to slack off. The task fell to me. I looked around to find my own car. Just then, my past experiences flashed before my eyes, and I involuntarily flinched again. My body began to scan my surroundings without my consent. I quickly turned my head from side to side. I wanted to get to the car quickly, grab the supplies, and return without succumbing to paranoia. I opened the car door and took my pillow from the back seat on the left side of the car. My cigarette was under the glove compartment. As I reached for it, I suddenly turned my head toward the passenger side window. A shadow seemed to pass quickly in front of me. After rubbing my eyes a few times, I carefully turned my eyes toward the direction where I had seen the shadow, filled with fear. My team wasn't with me, but I wished Dr. Max were here. I could feel the cold sweat on my forehead again. It was dripping onto the seat. I didn't know if it was because the parking lot was warm or because my body was heating up from fear. When I refocused, I waited for the shadow to pass again. Was it my shadow that passed, or was it a man? Either way, it would be bad for me. I preferred it to be a man. I couldn't take this situation anymore. I thought maybe this way everything would end, but I didn't know if I was ready for it. The lights in the parking lot suddenly went out. Only the green exit signs illuminated the area. I wanted to turn around and run away, but I couldn't see the way back. I had parked the car at the farthest point of the hospital parking lot. I waited helplessly for the lights to come back on. I hoped that a new car would enter and I could find my way by its light. Just then, as if God had heard my voice, I saw a car enter. Even from a distance, I could make out the exit door. In a few seconds, I determined the path I would take and walked quickly toward the door. My heart was pounding like a drum and sweat was streaming down my face. But an unexplainable curiosity kept asking me whether what I saw was a man or my own shadow. If it was a shadow, I wondered if shadows could be seen, and this curiosity echoed inside me. 5 or 6 meters before the parking lot gate, I felt someone pass behind me at full speed. At that moment, I sensed a black figure in the darkness. It wasn't a man, it was a shadow following me. I leaned my back against the gate. I had to see it. I had to know what was following me. I was out of breath. As I looked around, I saw a pair of red eyes staring at me from the rear of the black car diagonally to my right. I was about to lose my mind. I wanted to quickly open the door and run away without looking back. At that moment, I realized that my cigarette had fallen to the ground without me noticing. I bent down to pick it up, but when I stood up, the shadow was standing right in front of me. A dark shadow with sharp eyes and no discernible gender was staring at me. On one hand, I had my arm behind me, trying to force the door open. On the other hand, I was trying to figure out what this black shadow wanted from me. I felt a weight on my shoulders. It felt as if the shadow had arms and was trying to strangle me. My breathing became heavy and difficult. I felt as if I was losing consciousness. At that moment, Dr. Max tried to force open the parking lot door. When he realized I hadn't been in my room for a long time, he found out that I had gone down to the parking lot from security. The lights suddenly came on and the shadow disappeared. Taking a deep breath and holding my throat with my hands, I pulled myself away from the door. I coughed for a long time and took deep breaths without stopping. Dr. Max asked if I was okay and if everything was all right. I told him I would explain what had happened later and that I wanted to go to my room without wasting any time. I had a toothache and wanted to take painkillers as soon as possible, so Dr. Max and I quickly went to my room. Max wanted to know everything and why I was in this situation, but I couldn't explain what had happened to him. I made up a lie for Dr. Max, saying the parking lot was stuffy and I had been dizzy and had to wait there for a long time. Was I lucky? Could a shadow really kill a person? Or were these just hallucinations I was seeing? Story 2. The silence in the chief physician's office. Once again, on a day when I was mentally and physically exhausted, I found myself being ruthlessly dragged from place to place, feeling lost. As Dr. Robert Geller, I was familiar with both of these burdens. The strange events that had been occurring lately, especially the shadow in the parking lot, had deeply affected me. But this time, the tension came from a different source: the chief physician's office. It was located on the top floor of the hospital, usually a quiet and authoritative place. But that day, it felt like the harbinger of a storm. While I was rushing around all day, attending to many patients, I was also preparing for a critical surgery scheduled for the morning. I hadn't fully recovered from the impact of the incident in the parking lot, and my mind was oscillating between what I had heard and what I had seen. Just as I was organizing my surgery notes in my office, my phone rang. It was the chief physician's assistant. Dr. Geller, the chief physician is waiting for you in his office right now. He spoke to me in an anxious tone. Normally, such an urgent call wouldn't happen. I felt an odd unease in my heart. What was going on? I quickly gathered my notes and left my office. As I walked toward the elevator, I wondered what kind of trouble was coming my way. That's why the corridor seemed longer than usual. Every corner of the hospital held a different story, and at that moment I wondered which direction my own story would take. Perhaps the chief physician would put an end to all the pain I had experienced in this hospital. He might want to transfer me to another hospital because I had been through so much lately and was drawing too much attention to myself. I got into the elevator and went to the top floor. When the doors opened, the silence outside the chief physician's office greeted me. Normally, there would be a lot of coming and going here. I knocked lightly on the door and entered. The chief physician was sitting behind a large oak desk. He swiveled his black chair from side to side and fixed his eyes on me. There was an unfamiliar expression on his face, neither angry nor pleased, just serious. He pointed to one of the chairs across from him. I sat down. A few seconds of silence weighed heavily on the room. He looked at the papers on the desk and then at me. This gaze made me uncomfortable. It was as if he was expecting something from me, but wasn't saying what it was. "Dr. Geller," he said finally, his voice unusually calm, "I would like to consult with you on an important matter." I was surprised. The chief physician rarely consulted me on such matters. He usually gave orders or requested reports. "Of course, chief physician," I said. "I'm listening." He looked me straight in the eye. "There have been some incidents at the hospital recently, especially regarding missing medications." Missing medications? What did that have to do with me? I was a doctor and my job was to ensure that patients received the medications they needed by giving the necessary instructions to the nurses. However, it seemed highly unusual that the chief physician would discuss the loss of medications with me. Such situations occasionally occurred at the hospital, but they were typically due to issues with the pharmacy or storage. This was not within my area of responsibility. "I don't understand, chief physician," I said. "What does this have to do with me?" The chief physician took a deep breath. "I don't want to believe it, Dr. Geller, but some information and camera footage. Unfortunately, there is evidence that the missing drugs were taken on days when you were on duty and from your route." At that moment, I felt as if cold water had been poured over my head. This was an accusation. Was he talking about me? Me? Even the implication that this was directed at me was disrespectful. I hadn't left this hospital, even in the face of all the paranormal events that had occurred. "This is impossible," I said, my voice louder than I had intended. "I would never get involved in something like this. I've dedicated my life to this profession. How could you even think such a thing?" The chief physician pushed some papers toward me on the desk. "These are the reports we have, Dr. Geller. Footage from security cameras, inventory records, and other evidence." I was shocked to see footage of someone I didn't recognize entering and exiting my office. There were images of someone walking down the corridor where the medicine cabinet was located. Their face wasn't fully visible, but they were wearing a uniform similar to mine, and I was on duty at that time. I couldn't believe it. This must be a trap. "This is a misunderstanding," I shouted. "Someone must be trying to frame me. I would never do such a thing." The chief physician stood up. He looked out the window at the city lights. "You must prove this, Dr. Geller, because this situation will deeply affect both the hospital's reputation and your career." I grabbed the flash drive with the footage and rushed to the computer in my office. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The spirit with the sharp red eyes I had seen in the parking lot had entered and exited my room. And in the footage, it was behaving as if it were copying my movements. Yes, it was definitely it. A voice inside me was telling me it was. Even though it appeared human, I recognized it from the way it looked at the camera. But how could I explain this to the chief physician? I didn't know how to clear my name. Worse yet, what did this spirit want from me? The disappearance of the medications was already a major problem, but being blamed for it, and worse yet, Having a dark spirit following me was a complete nightmare. Do you think the chief physician really believed me? Or was this situation part of a conspiracy against me? Who could be behind this conspiracy? And how could I clear my name? Story 3. Lullabies in the Nursery. Every corner of the hospital holds its own unique story. Some are filled with hope, while others are steeped in indescribable sadness. Flowing tears, the joy experienced by the family of a newborn baby. All these emotions flowed seamlessly into one another. As Dr. Robert Geller, I practiced my profession every day amidst these contrasts. The shadow in the parking lot, the unsettling conversation in the chief physician's office. Each new event drew me deeper into it. But this time, it would unfold in the hospital's most innocent, most delicate place, the neonatal intensive care unit. This was where new beginnings and new hopes took root. A place filled with sweet scents and, most of the time, peace. However, that night, there was a different tone behind the door of that room. It was another night when I was on duty, as usual. I was reviewing the routine reports from other floors in my room. My shift would end around 7:30 a.m., and then I would sleep for a bit and go to my friend's place as promised in the afternoon. Everything was proceeding normally. But this was not normal for me because the most unexpected events occurred at these moments. Because silence had become my nightmare. It was around 4 a.m. I had to visit the neonatal unit, especially the baby care room, to perform the routine final checks on the newborn babies. This was my routine. I always stopped by during every shift. The baby room always gave me a little peace of mind. The tiny, innocent bodies, the soft rustling of the cribs surrounding them. I started walking toward it. The fatigue of the day was beginning to show on me. The corridor leading to the neonatal ward was brighter and more colorful than the other floors. The children's pictures on the walls, the decorations on the doors. But that night, there was no trace of that bright corridor. There was no one in the corridor, only the echoes of my footsteps. As I approached the door of the baby care room, I heard a faint, monotonous sound coming from inside. It was as if someone was humming a lullaby, but it was very late, and it was unusual for a nurse to be singing a lullaby at this hour in the baby room. Perhaps there was a mother there, saying goodbye to her baby or trying to calm it down. I gently grabbed the door handle and pushed it back. I leaned in and looked inside. In the dimly lit room, I noticed a silhouette between the cribs. It was the figure of a young woman, bent over a crib, gently rocking it. I couldn't see her face clearly, but the whispers continued. "Sleep, my little one, sleep." I paused for a moment. Who was this? Why was she here at such a late hour? According to hospital rules, even parents were not allowed to stay in the baby room outside of visiting hours. I took a few steps inside. I wanted to let him know I was in the room, but he didn't hear my footsteps, or pretended not to. The whispers started again. This time, I could hear them more clearly. Why did they take you away from me? Why did you stay silent? Why are you here, but not with me? The sadness in his voice affected me deeply. This was no ordinary lullaby. It was a farewell plea. "Excuse me," I said, my voice trembling involuntarily. "Is everything okay? Who are you and why are you here?" The woman suddenly raised her head. Her eyes were red and swollen, even in the dim light. Her face wore a weary and sorrowful expression. I recognized her. This was the young mother who had lost her baby due to complications last week. Her name was Alice. "Dr. Geller," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's my fault. Everything is my fault. I left him alone, and now he's left me alone too." It was clear she had experienced a great trauma. The pain of losing her baby had brought her here, at this hour of the night, among the sleeping babies. I tried to comfort her. "Ms. Alice, it wasn't your fault. Sometimes even medicine is powerless. We did everything we could." But she didn't even listen to me. She was focused only on herself, leaning over the crib and whispering into the void, perhaps to the baby she had lost. "I want him back. I won't leave here without him. He's here. I can feel it." The situation was very serious. Alice could lose control. She could harm both her own health and the health of the other babies. For everyone's peace of mind, she needed to leave the nursery immediately. She needed psychological help. I immediately called security and the on-call psychiatrist for assistance. I went to her, touched her shoulder, and told her I understood. And I told her she had to leave the room for everyone's health. When she refused, I had to grab her arm and take her outside. I accidentally hurt her arm a little, but I didn't mean to. I actually wanted to help her, but I couldn't help her that way. I called Alice's husband and asked him to come to the hospital immediately. Security found her husband's phone number in Alice's records and told him to come to the hospital. For me, another responsibility, another sorrow had been added to my shoulders. I guess it would always be like this. The more I tried to help, the more I felt that the events were drawing me in. When my shift ended at dawn, I learned that Ms. Alice had been sedated and placed under observation. But those sorrowful lullabies from the nursery were etched into my mind. William was outside in the chief physician's office, plotting, and now Alice in the baby room. I had never felt safe, and I didn't know what else might happen to me in the future. Where was I going wrong? Do you have any ideas about this? Shouldn't Dr. Robert Geller be a good doctor?